Welcome to South Dakota's Junior Achievement Stock Market Challenge Simulation Training. The first thing you're going to want to do is to go to smc.ja.org and click on Log In. Once you do that, you're going to enter your username, which is the email address that we have on file for you, and the password that you created. If for some reason you do not have your password yet or you can't remember it, you can use the forgot password to reset it. Once you log in, you are going to see your dashboard, and there are 4 tabs on the left-hand side that you will utilize. The Home tab is going to show all of the games that you have set up. The My Classrooms tab just simply shows all of the classes that we have you currently enrolled in. You're not going to use this tab very often, but the one thing I want to note is that there is a live simulation that you can use as a bonus if you want to, and it emulates what's happening in the real stock market. In order to activate that, you would click here on the class you want it activated in, go to here, Classroom Simulation. You're going to create your simulation name, give the students as much money as you want, and then just simply hit activate. So again, that's not something that we need to use for JA, but it is a really cool feature that is available if you'd like to take a look at it. The competitions tab is where we are going to create our games, as well as any games that are not officially published will also show up here. And then we have the general reports tab. And this tab is going to just, once the game is completely over, you can see the summary and a full report detail if you want to take a look at that. So let's jump in and start a game. So in order to create a game, you're going to go to competitions and then create competition. Now, I promise this looks a little confusing, but as soon as you do it a couple times, it is very, very turnkey. I can set up a game in less than 2 minutes, and then you can duplicate that game in about 20 seconds. So it looks cumbersome, but hang with me. The first thing you want to do is create a competition name that's very identifiable, and we encourage you to use your school initials as well as the teacher's last name, just so that we have an idea of who's setting up the game. And then from there, be very specific in regard to maybe period 1, visit 1. And I have done, I'm going to do double A. I've done so many, I'll look for the double A as we go. So make it an identifiable name. The bank is how much money do you want the students to play with? You can customize that. You can change that. I'm just going to go ahead and click 500,000. Now we are in the pre-event setup. So what this means is that this is going to allow the students to buy stock prior to actually starting the game. It does not matter the start date and end date. It really doesn't matter for the in-class practices. It matters more for the statewide and the national competitions. So for you guys in the classroom, don't think hard. I always pick tomorrow, and I always pick 1 o'clock a.m. It's just what I pick, so I don't have to think about it. We do have to do we have to set a to-do list. So again, you have to do the start date. This is why I always pick tomorrow and 1 o'clock, because I don't have to think about it. For my end date, I always just pick the last day of that month, and 1 o'clock is just what I do. It literally doesn't matter. As long as it is after the start date and time, you don't have to worry about it. So the title is just going to be, once you type it once, it's going to auto generate like an option, and I just literally copy and paste it every time I do it. So we first want the students to explore and buy stocks. So that's what I write. You can just say pick stocks. It just doesn't matter. For our in-class practices, we can just hit save. If you had a second task that you wanted them to do, you could add a task there, but it's unnecessary. So it's going to pop us back up to that main pre-event setup tab. You're going to notice these are not yet activated. It won't be activated until we hit save a second time, and then okay that it was successfully added. That has now opened up the actual gameplay. So once again, we have to add the start date one more time. I don't think about it. I always do tomorrow. I always do 1 a.m. For the trading options for an in-class practice, you actually want electronic trading as well as digital news so that the students can see it directly. But again, so we don't have to think hard, always click on allow both. It just doesn't matter. Now is when you're actually going to start customizing your game. So you are going to decide how many minutes do you want this total game to be. So kind of think about it. That first visit, we encourage volunteers to take 15 to 20-ish minutes to introduce themselves and talk about the stock market basics and introduce the game. And so then by the time the students play, purchase their stocks for, get in for the first time, about 5 minutes. So maybe you have about 20 to 25 minutes of gameplay. Maybe the second visit you plan on 25 to 30, and maybe that third visit you plan on 30 to 35, that type of thing. So you get to kind of decide. Sometimes it's nice to project a little high and then just call the game whenever the class period is over, rather than running out of, days and having extra time at the end. You can do whichever you want. The one thing I want to note is that you cannot advance the game faster than the seconds per day that you put here. So in the past, we were able to advance days just to get further in the game. You cannot do that with this simulation. So you really want to think about how many seconds do you want the students to be able to play each round. So is it 60? You're going to notice this auto generate. So you can either identify the number of days, or I like to say, oh, I kind of want my students to have 60 seconds, and maybe the next time it's 50 seconds, and then maybe the third one it's 45 seconds. However you want to do it, but you get to customize this, and this is going to auto-generate from there. You can simply skip this knowledge challenge. If you wanted to put in a pop quiz, you could, but that's unnecessary for JA. So I simply hit save, and now we're going to move on to the stocks and news. So the first thing you have to do is we want one round. So for the first round, you can do either a manual setup where you actually select all the stocks and news that you want on your own, which I'm going to show at the end of this if you want to watch it, or you can pick a template as your starting point. So you're going to notice JA of South Dakota has put some templates out here, but really you can select any of them. We see the entire nations. I cannot prove or promise that somebody didn't start it without finishing it. So it does make me a little nervous to use other people's, but you can always, no matter what you pick for your template, even the South Dakota ones, you're going to need to do just a little bit more customization that I'm going to show in a minute. So if you remember on the event setup tab, we picked 25 minutes with 60-second rounds. So it was a 25-day thing. I'm going to pick 50 days just to show you what happens if those don't match. So here's 50-day. I'm going to apply the mode. And when I do that, it takes just a moment, but what you're going to notice is that when you scroll down, you can see all the stocks that we chose to put into that game. If you click on the view icon, you can see all about that stock, and you can edit it if you want as well. So like I said, it's very customizable. And if you do that, you're customizing it on that specific game. You'll notice if you go to news here, when you scroll down, you can view it, and it's going to show you some cool things. It's going to show you how it's affected. So this is the trigger day is the day in which it's going to be in your competition. It's going to be on day 25. And this is where you're going to actually see what it is affecting. So let me just go down here and show you it's affecting. This one is affecting these industries. Some of them show the actual value, which is what I was trying to show you here. Here we go. The actual value effect. So 6% with an impact down. So what's cool is that in this specific view, when you're under stocks and news, down here under news, when you click on edit, you have the opportunity to actually select the industries you want that news item to affect. So if you want it to affect more, obviously make it make sense to the news item, but you can like literally say, how much do you want it to move? And then you can pick if you want it to be a strong impact up or down, or a gradual impact up or down. And you can customize that here. So oops, it sends you lots of prompts if you're doing anything wrong. You can actually select stocks too. So if you want specific stocks for it to affect, you can again pick these specific stocks and not just the industries. So much customization. It is so fun and so cool. And I know we're all just starting to learn this. So I'm looking forward to great feedback, and hopefully we are going to be able to build some really fun things in the future. I do have to note that right now, the templates that the statewide, from the statewide perspective that we can set up, we cannot customize like you guys can customize in the classroom, which seems extremely silly. I know JAUSA is working with a developer to see if they can create some enhancements, but I just want you to know that I have a lot of limitations. So those templates are just a starting point, but if you could spend 2 more minutes just to look in here, that is going to be so helpful. an easier view actually to be able to see those changes is under itinerary. So if you want to make changes, you go to the stocks and news tab, come down here under news specifically, and that's where you can edit the percentages and if it's going up or down, etc. Okay. But in order to see it and test it a little bit more, if you go to the itinerary tab, you can see it here as well. So if you just go down to trading round one, see detail, this is an easier view. So you can see exactly how many are on the same day. So this is what I am not able to customize on the template side. And if you remember, the first tab we showed we wanted a 25-day game. However, we picked a 50-day template. So that's when you're going to start seeing some of these days duplicate. So the easiest way to change that is just to click on this edit and just change the trigger day. So let's just spread them out a little bit. Instead of all being on day 3, let's make one on day 4. Let's make one on day 6. And we already have a 6. Let's go to day 8. And then what you'll notice is that it just starts spreading them out a little bit. So again, I apologize, but if you select a template that has more days in it than not, you're going to start seeing some of that duplication. The other thing is you're going to see a whole bunch on the very last day. So again, you wouldn't probably want to be this extreme in picking your template, but if you're wondering why it does that, it's because we had a 25-day allotment for our game, but our template had 50 days within it. So again, you could either delete some of these or you could just simply, start divvying them up and spreading out the days. This is pretty extreme. Normally you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't pick a 50-day template, but I wanted to show you what would happen if you did. Okay. So I will show you also how you can move that once you actually are in the game too. So that's the itinerary tab. It allows us to make changes to the trigger days extremely easy. And it also helps us to be able to see how many are going to fall on each day. Again, if you want to see the full thing, you can click on it. You can see what's being affected. And if you wanted to change that effect, you'd have to go back to the stock and news tab. But this is a really great view of seeing it kind of holistically. Okay, now we've got the game set. We need to add the participants. So what you're going to do is go to the participants tab, click on individuals and apply. And this is the most important thing. You have to select your class option first. And you really want to make sure you're focused on which game are you setting up. So I'm setting it up for the first period class, which is my 8 o'clock class. We tried to make there be an extra double check by writing in period 1. So yes, period 1 is my 8 o'clock class, so I'm okay. You're going to notice that the teams, we can't use any numbers. It's very frustrating for us on our side, but you're going to notice that this is team A, B, C, D, and we've given you 20 logins to utilize. And I would encourage you just to put all of them into the game. And that way you don't have to worry about having the correct slip of paper. So to that note, we are going to provide slips of paper. So this is an 8.5 by 11. We're going to give you 3 sets of them. You can just simply cut across and give 1 slip to each team. And that's what they're going to use to help them walk through how to get in. This is their username. You can see this password, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So once again, as we go back here, what I want to show you is the fastest way to do it is just to click select. But it's only selecting the first page, which is only 10. And we have 20, so there's a second page. So click on the second page, hit select, and then go through all your pages, which there should only be 2, and then click add. Before you hit save, you want to double check one more time. Yes, I'm setting up my game for period 1. This is period 1. Now I'm going to save those into it. You'll also notice that this publish button has now become active because I hit save and I have both stocks and news and the participants in the game. So now we're ready to go ahead and publish it. Before we do it, you can skip the configuration tab. This is just for our statewide competitions. It's for all of the screen sizes. And then you can go to the preview tab if you'd like as well. This gives you an idea of all of the stocks and how they're going to move throughout the game. And if you see some that are maybe not moving as much as you want and you want to make changes, you can do so by going back to the stock and news and then altering those values and those percentages. But this just gives you one more little snapshot of what's going to happen. The other thing I want to note is that if you have done simulations in the past with us, these are going to be a lot more gradual in movement than our old one used to be. So we used to have some pretty manic jumps. This is much more stable, much more realistic to what actually happens in the real market. So just keep that in mind. So now that we have our game set up, we're going to publish it. And the really awesome thing is you're going to notice it pops into your home tab. So we did the AA game. If you have more than one class period, you can simply duplicate it. You click on duplicate, you put in the name once again. So this time we are going to do period 2. Instead of period 1, and this should not be this hard. Sorry about that. So we're going to do the AA. I'm going to change this. Now we're going to set it up for period 2. Once you hit duplicate, the only thing we have to do, it's going to pop you in here, is go to participants, and all we want to change is the students that are in it. So we're going to reset the students. You're going to click the individual, you're going to hit apply, and now we're going to pick our period 2 class. Again, we're going to select, we're going to go down here, we're going to select. So we got all of them selected on all pages, click on add. Now, what I want you to really notice is that you have to hit the save button here before you hit publish, or your period 1 students are going to stay in this wrong game. We did make that mistake more than once in the pilot, so make sure you hit the save button. And it's tricky because that publish button is live right out of the gate. So once we hit save, then we can publish it, and boom, you're done. So once you get in the habit, it takes me literally, depending on how much energy you want to put into it, it takes me about 3 minutes to set up a game, and it takes me about 20 seconds to duplicate it. If you had a third section, you would just do the exact same thing. Okay? Now, let's pretend you're in the classroom. The volunteer has done their introduction. You're ready to get the students in. I'm going to jump over to the Edge view to show you what the students are going to do when they get in. Again, they'll have that slip of paper. They're just going to follow it across. They too are going to go to smc.ja.org, click on login, come here. They're going to use this fictitious email that's set up, and everybody's password is password with a capital P, 123 exclamation point. And again, that's right here on their slip of paper. Oops, let's see, we're back here. Once they log in, their login is just a little bit different. They are going to have their home screen. If you wanted them to be able to do that live simulation, that is, remember when we activated it from the classroom tab, this is where they would see that, and this is where they can play with that if you wanted them to do that. Again, extra bonus, they don't have to do it. They're primarily just going to play out of this home tab. So they are going to go down and they're going to pick the game that you specifically want them to go into. So that was AA for us. So we're going to click on AA. They have to hit that they're a student, and they have to select that. Then what you're going to notice is that there are 2 tabs. Well, because we want them to buy their stock first, we haven't officially set up the game or started the game. They can't enter the actual event. We're just in that first portion where they can buy. So they're going to click on my portfolio, and this is what they're going to see. You're going to notice that we haven't started, so the days aren't moving yet. We also don't see that things are increasing or decreasing because we haven't started. But this is where they're going to scroll down, and they can drill into the stocks by clicking on the symbols. Again, they can see all the information. They get to buy them on their own. So you're going to notice that you can't sell until you buy. You can only buy via the actual quantity of stock. So it's $84. Let's say we want 1,000 of them. It's going to auto generate the price, and you can then click buy and confirm it. Okay. Then you have to hit OK. It's going to show them their available cash on hand. Now that we've purchased it, you're going to notice now it's saying we have 1,000 that if we want to sell, we can choose something specific, or we could also sell all. So buying and selling is very easy for the students to do. You're going to notice this star button, and that is your watch list. So if there's usually we set them up for around 25, but you can pick however many you want. to be in the game, but for them not to have to scroll through, if there's some that they want to watch, it's just going to pop it over to their watch list on this side. They can easily take it off their watch list by hitting the delete button. It does not sell the stock. They don't even have to own stock to be watching it. But this is kind of fun. I think they can pick up to 5 or so. I'm actually not sure. But if they want to, this is just a way to make it easy to see. Okay. And then they also have a transaction history down here on the bottom. So if they want to kind of keep track of what they're doing, this is what they get to see. It's really awesome. Okay. So now they have had a few minutes to buy what they want to buy. You as the classroom teacher are going to go into that specific game. So we're on period 1. And I would just make that as a note. You have to click on director and hit select to get into the game. I want to showcase again, remember, oops, that's not what I want. I don't want to open my email. If you just need to double check that if a student is in what they think is the right game and maybe accidentally it's saying that it's the second period up here, then you'll know that you accidentally put the wrong set of students into the game. So sometimes that's a troubleshooting opportunity, is just to see what class period are they even showcasing here. So that's just a little aside that sometimes it's helpful. So now this is how you can manage the game and how you start the game. I want to show you a couple things. First of all, you're going to see these 3 tabs up here, just say competition information. At this moment, I'm going to show you that in just a minute. If you do need to edit your participants at all and put in different students, you can do that here and you can do it right away. So when we did the pilot class, I missed hitting the second page of students. So all of a sudden, only half of our students were in. So thankfully, very quickly, we hit edit. We came over here to participants and we were able to add right here and then go in and select the class period and then the students that we want. Now, right now, all of our students are in, so we can't add it. But let's just say we were in the wrong section and we really needed these students, then you could add those students as you go and you can get them into the game, which is great. Okay, so that's the edit tab. One thing to note is if you whether you are ready to hit start or whether you're just kind of checking it out, making sure the volunteer is still introducing themselves, you can go here and just like on the itinerary tab when you set it up, you have the opportunity to move and change any of these as well. And it's really easy to do from this view. So again, if you want to move those 7 so that they're not right on top of each other, we can move one of them. You can do 2 things in this view, which is the easiest way to do it. You can actually change the industries or make the percentage changes here, which is like so easy to do. Or you can actually change the stocks that are being affected, which is cool. And you can also change that trigger day super, super fast. So you can do that here. Oops. Very, very easy. So that is just by clicking on this blue drop down. You're also going to notice when you're ready to start the game that it will automatically pop up. When you come in here, it's like this. You can click on it to expand it, or you can bring it up. But when you start the game, you're going to notice 2 things happen. Okay. First of all, now we have these titles. So we've got the trading leaderboard, and you're going to notice they all open up in a new tab. If you have the opportunity to display, I would encourage you to display the newsletter and maybe toggle every once in a while. That way the volunteer can see the news item that's coming. But what you're going to notice is that this URL, the only thing that changes in the competition is this 3-digit number. And that digit code is going to be the same on all 3 of them. So what I would encourage you to do, and what we've included on our slips of paper, are those URLs that the students can type in and just enter in that 3-digit code for their specific game. You're going to notice that they can, once they do the top one, they can copy and paste it and just change that last word. It's left, main, and right. And that way they can see it on their own devices and have it up close. So you're going to be able to see the movement holistically and see where everybody is from those 3 tabs that are up here. Okay. The other thing I want to just showcase is that it's rolling. Literally, you hit start and you can mill around the room. You can interact with the students. You can read off the news items. You do not have to stay behind your computer. There is not a way to advance it faster. The only thing you can do is pause the game. Once you pause it, what I want you to see is that it actually grays out the student view. So it's good and bad. It's good in that if you have a teachable moment, the volunteer wants to showcase something, you want to talk about why a stock moved, etc., you can pause and just force them to have your attention at the front of the room. But the bummer is sometimes I wish it would just pause and not advance the game, but allow the students to still see things. It doesn't. It does gray it all out, which can be a little bit frustrating, but that is just the way it works. So I just wanted to let you know that. I do want you to know, though, that as the game is playing, you can still be making real time. So as long as it hasn't already been on that day, as you're playing, if you're like, ooh, watching the clock saying there's no way we're going to get to day 25, I kind of want these news items sooner, go in here, drill it out. You can put it on day 13 and all of a sudden it's going to jump up. So even though you can't advance the game, you can move some of these days to trigger quicker if you need or want to. Okay, so now what I want to do is just talk through a few more things, some troubleshooting things, and just some other additional information. So first of all, you can have so much customization, which is awesome, and you can put as much time or energy into it as you want. We are asking that the classroom teachers take the lead with setting up the games, but make sure to email each other and just touch base, because I do know that we have some incredible volunteers who might really find excitement and energy in building some games out. The reason we ask the classroom teachers to do it is just because you can so easily duplicate it from class period to class period where the volunteers can't do that. I do want you to know, though, unfortunately, you can't see each other's games. So the volunteer and teacher, even though you're in the same class period, you share the student IDs. However, you can't see each other's. But I do want you to note that on the, on the student view, they can see both. So the volunteer set this game up, even though the classroom teacher can't see it, the students can see it. So once again, it's very, very important to make sure that you have an identifiable game name. And it's kind of nice if you can say, you know, the school and then who built it. So whether the volunteer built it, use your last name or use the teacher's last name. That way we can just identify it a little easier. Okay. The other thing I want to note is that one frustration is that it's very hard to log out, especially as a student. And so what you're going to notice is that I know some of you guys are running in the computer labs and you have sections throughout the day that need to use the same computers. So when you go to log out, it's going to appear as though you've logged out. However, when you log back in, it's going to usually remember the last person who logged in, which is so maddening. So there's a couple things. One thing is to clear your browsing history. And I know sometimes there is limitations on that in schools or on their Chromebooks, etc. So if they can do that, that is the easiest thing to do. I believe Control H is a very easy shortcut for that, Control H. So clear your browsing history between each section. The other thing, and I'll add this, is to go to access.ja.org. It's the back end, and this is just a trick I just learned recently. This is our back-end user management system, and it's the one thing that will actually work. So staying live in there, literally going to access.ja.org, clicking here and logging out here is going to log them out of the entire JASA system. So now when you go back to smc.ja.org, it's going to show that they're still in. I know you're going to think it failed, but now when you log out, it's actually going to log them out. So I promise you that's a frustration that's identified, but now you can actually log in. So if a volunteer or a classroom teacher, if the teacher happens to be gone and the volunteer needs to log in and it's remembering the teacher's login. I know a lot of teachers don't like to clear their browsing history because you've got lots of things saved in there. All you have to do is go to access.ja.org, sign out there, and then sign out one more time and it will take you here. So that's my newest trick I just learned. All right, I'm trying to think of the other small troubleshooting items that I wanted to point out. The last thing is, if you want to stick with me, you can. I want to show you quickly how to set up a manual game. So if you don't want to set up a manual game, you can jump off. But if you do want to see it, I want to show you how you can do that. So again, we're just going to do demo game manual for the moment. I want to show you quickly how fast you can do this. Again, you can set up. I never think about it. I always just pick tomorrow. I always just pick 1 o'clock. I always pick tomorrow. I always pick the end of the month. I always pick explore and buy stocks. I copy it, I paste it, I hit save again, I hit OK. See how fast that was? Now we're going to set up the event. Again, we pick tomorrow. We pick 1 o'clock. We pick allow both, allow both. I'm just going to do 10 minutes. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to show you guys too. Now people might have jumped off, but let me just do it real quick. I'm going to hit save. If you want to set up a manual game, you're going to pick manual instead. And what you're going to notice is that it's going to allow you to pick all the stock. So you're going to notice when you go over here to news items, there are no news items. First thing you have to do is click on stocks. So the first thing you're going to do is just go through here. Again, you can read them. There's like over 100 stocks you can pick from. So there's a lot of them. And so you can get as fancy as you want, but we're just going to pick a few to get going. Once you select the stocks you want in your game, you can hit save selection. And now you're going to notice that not only do you have the view, but you have the edit icon as well. So if you wanted to make edits to your stock, you can do that here. Also, if you want to create your own stock, you can add a full stock and do your entirely own template right there. But now what you're going to notice is that when you go to the news tab, it looks like there's nothing here. However, if you go over here to edit template, you actually have all the news items that are preloaded that connect to the specific stocks that you have chosen. So again, we only have the view button at the moment, so you can view them. You can kind of see where the trigger competition date is, etc. This is how I build the template. I just don't get the second step that you guys get. So I'm going to just pick on some. And I'm going to save the selection. Once you save the selection, now you have the edit button. So now is when you can go in here and see specifically, you can easily change the stocks that are being affected by how much. You can say gradual up, gradual down, etc. Again, you're going to actually want to read the content, but you can change those and you can change the competition trigger days. So if you know that you have a 20-day game and you want this to be lower, that's great. If you have a 50-day game and you want it in the 30s, that's fine too. You have the opportunity to edit it right here. So that's as easy as it is to create your own game. It's not hard. It just depends on how much time you want to take actually reading some of this stuff. But you can easily manipulate the trigger days, etc. right here. And everything else is exactly the same. So again, sometimes it's just easier once you build it to kind of see what happened here. You can see what overlaps. You can change it again if you need to. Once again, you'd go to participants, you'd click on individual, apply. And then you're going to pick your specific class period. You're going to select, hit your second page, select again, hit add, hit save. You can preview it if you want, and then you can publish it. So again, doesn't take a lot of time. But the one thing I wish I had said before I did that, in case people logged off, is that you have a delete button. If you start and create a competition, which I didn't have one in here really quick, like if you start one, it's probably not going to let me. It's going to get too mad. If you're in the competition tab and you haven't published it, it'll be here. There's a delete button. So until you publish it, you can easily delete it. But once you get into the home tab, there's no delete button. And I hope that they add one someday, but there isn't one. The only way that you can get a game out of the queue here, if you want to, is by starting the game. So you can see these are in progress. I've already started those. So let's just say we made a mistake on this game and we no longer want it to show on this. We don't want it to show on the student screen. Just log in and start the game. You do not have to sit here for the full 20 or 30 minutes that you set that game up for. You can literally go do other things. Before I started this training, I did that for one of these top ones. So after the 30 minutes, just go back. And again, you don't even have to be logged in. Once you do that, it's going to pop up and show that it is been ended. And you can just say continue and don't show results. And you're going to notice it's going to get out of your queue and it's no longer going to be seen on the student view either. So that was my last tip. I hope you guys have a great time. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to the JA staff at 605-336-7318. Thanks so much.